After 8 years, voters choose a new leader. Tonight, the candidates answer questions that impact you: homelessness, public safety, and how to pay for it all. Meet the candidates: Dr. Flo Kofer, a public health professional; Steve Hansen, a small businessman; Kevin McCarty, an assembly member; and Dr. Richard Pan, a physician. Live on KCRA3, this is the Sacramento mayoral debate. Now, moderators Edie Lambert and Brandy Cummings.
And thank you for joining us. Thank you to all of our candidates. We have 30 minutes and 4 candidates, and we want to get right to this, starting with the ground rules that all of the candidates have agreed to. Each candidate has 1 minute to respond to questions. For follow-up questions or rebuttals, each candidate has 30 seconds. Viewers at home, you will hear a chime like that when the candidate is out of time.
You know, we often hear from Sacramento voters saying about their one issue that is most pressing, and that's homelessness. We also know you all hear that as well. This issue is so complex. There are many layers to it, and it doesn't lend itself just to 1 minute responses. So tonight, we're focusing on the issues surrounding homelessness, starting with the dramatic increase we've seen here in Sacramento.
And we held a random drawing to decide which candidate would start. And Richard Pan, we will start with you. And we want to start really with some numbers here. Between 2019 and 2022, the total number of homeless people in Sacramento County increased by 67% to more than 9,000. That's according to the latest federal data. And during that same time, San Francisco's homeless population, San Francisco's dropped more than 3%. So Sacramento County now has more homeless residents than San Francisco, and we cannot fix this problem if we don't understand the root of it. So what is the number one reason that you think we've seen this? And what would you do as mayor that is not being done right now that would address the root of this issue?
Well, frankly, this represents a failure in leadership at City Hall, because certainly homelessness is an issue that's affecting our entire country, affecting the state, but as you pointed out, it's actually worse here in Sacramento. And we need to have stronger leadership in Sacramento to address this issue. We need to keep people housed. We need to have people at risk of being homeless. We need to not add to the numbers, right? We also need to help the people who are on the streets, 5,000 people and growing, unfortunately, who are on the streets, who need to be not only have a place to go, but also get the services they need to help them be successful. And we know there's a housing shortage. And we don't have enough places for people to live. And so we should be maximizing the amount of housing we're getting built here in Sacramento across the spectrum, especially affordable housing, but we need to get the housing supply up so that we can bring the price of housing down. And as mayor, that's what I'm gonna be focused on.
All right, Flo Kofer.
Yes, we understand that this problem has been growing for a while. And actually, if we take it back even further to 2013, we only had 2,500 people experiencing homelessness. And so our numbers have really quadrupled in the last 10 years. And the driving causes of that really are us understanding the cost of housing. Housing is unaffordable for so many people. And it's complicated by the fact that we don't have a social support system to be able to make sure that people are supported in retaining their housing. And that means making sure that it's affordable, but also making sure that their needs are met. As we age, our needs change. When we have health conditions, our needs change. And we need to make sure that we have what's in place to be able to keep people housed once we get them rehoused. And that is my priority as your next mayor.
And since we have a little bit more time, what is a specific thing that you would do as mayor that's not being done now?
Sure. One of the things that I would do is make sure that we have safe ground. I would make sure that we had real rent control so that rent increases are not outpacing people's increases in income. And I would also make sure that we are spending the bulk of our dollars on making sure that we have long-term permanent supportive housing.
All right, Steve Hansen.
It's true. Homelessness is one word for 1,000 problems. As a kid, I experienced homelessness. My mom and I moved around a lot. We lived in a domestic violence shelter. So I lived in this very neighborhood, Alkali Flat, for 16 years on the front lines of the homelessness crisis. When I joined the council, I helped create the first programs the city ever had on homelessness. And it's gotten worse because we stopped working together with our county, our other city partners. But in our 6-county region, this county and this city is one of the few places people seem to gravitate to. We definitely know there's been a huge uptick in drug and alcohol issues in our homelessness population, and we have to get ahead of that by partnering with the public health providers, our health systems in the county. Mental health is a huge challenge. So I have advocated for, if you could go to my website, steveforsacramento.com/plan, I have my plan there to build housing at all levels of affordability, to accelerate care courts, to make sure that we're keeping our neighborhoods safe while we help people, because we have to be compassionate and firm.
Kevin McCarty.
Well, this is our failure government, all levels, city, county, state, and federal. It's why I'm leaving the legislature to run for mayor. I see this firsthand. My kids walk home from school, they have to walk around encampments, and I'm frustrated just like the people of Sacramento. The root causes of this are many. Certainly, it's affordable housing is an issue. We have addiction and mental health issues. They all go together, and we need a mayor who can work on these things in tandem. And that's what I'm going to bring to the table is my experience working with state and county and federal and our local leaders bringing about real solutions. So what I would do as mayor are two things. One, we need to build way more housing at all income levels, whether that's turning our state offices downtown into affordable housing, streamlining housing permits to build more housing. But the issue as far as encampments and tents and urban camping, we can't have that. We can't have people sleeping in our parks and on our streets. We need to focus more on urgent solutions today. And that means triaging locations where people can go to get people off the streets today.
Our next question, it can be tough to balance the rights of people living outdoors with concerns including sanitation, health, and public safety. A big place we see that conflict is on our city sidewalks. Should police issue citations to the homeless for blocking the sidewalks? If not, how will you enforce the city's own ordinance? Candidate Kofer, we start with you.
Sure. I think the question that we all have is, how can we all be safe in our community? And so, no, I don't think police should be citing people who are experiencing homelessness, because it's not going to solve the challenge. The challenge is our city has failed to identify where people can go. We are sweeping people block to block on a regular basis, but we're not saying where they can be. And so my proposal is that we create safe ground all around town that we can do immediately, where people can charge their cell phones and have a shower and use toilet facilities and be able to be human. And also where we can co-locate services so that they're actually able to be triaged into what are the pressing needs. Do you have a job and you actually just need some assistance getting housing? Do you need some health support for substance use or mental health or a chronic condition? Because 57% of people experiencing homelessness have at least one chronic condition. So there are some ways that we need to be able to do this, but first and foremost, we can't keep telling people where they can't be without telling them clearly where they can.
And how would you go about enforcing the city's own ordinance?
Well, the ordinance right now requires that we have a place for people to go. And so we have to do that first. And I think that's the way to answer. We don't start with enforcement. We start with making sure that we have a good answer to the problem.
Candidate Hansen?
Sidewalks need to be clear. Seniors, people with disabilities. I've had to walk my kids into the street to get around encampments because the city refuses to enforce its own ordinance. And it's not just the sidewalk ordinance that's being refused to be enforced. We have parks that have encampments in them. Near our own daycare, near here, we have camps around them. And we have to keep our neighborhoods safe while we help people. These sidewalks, these parks, these neighborhood schools need to be safe too. We can help people, but we have to enforce the law, because when people are doing bad things or the city's not safe because you can't walk down the street, it's a problem not just for that person who's on the sidewalk, it's a problem for all of us. And we need a city that has an economic future where people want to come, shop, dine, work, live, raise their families. And that's not the city that we need.
And just so we're clear, should the police issue citations to homeless that are blocking the sidewalks?
Generally, what I've noticed is that the police will get compliance from people if they ask them to move. Citation should be a last resort, but sometimes people do need a citation in order to move along, and I think that's appropriate. Candidate
McCarty?
Yeah, I don't believe in urban camping. You know, if you want to camp, you go to a campground. You can't camp, you know, in the middle of a park, a sidewalk, you know, a public right of way. And we need to focus on enforcing that, whether it's at night or whether that's during the day. But the flip side, I believe, is true as well. We need to tell people where they can go. I think that's one of the failures of local government. We too often focus on the perfect solution and not the good solution. A case in point, 2 years ago, I got the county $25 million to do emergency housing to get people off of the Parkway, our jewel of Sacramento. We're going on 2 years. Hasn't been one penny spent of that. So what I want to do as mayor is focus on an urgent basis, look at places like Cal Expo, our old city courtyards, vacant Caltrans lots around Sacramento where people can legally camp, have their motorhomes, their cars, tiny homes where you can have, water and shower and bathroom facilities and services. So yes, I believe that we need to enforce no camping, but on the flip side, have places where people can go.
And candidate Pan.
Yes. As I said in my opening, we have a crisis in leadership. People have lost confidence in the leadership of the city. And part of the reason for that is that the city passes an ordinance like the sidewalk ordinance and doesn't seem to enforce that ordinance. And people go, wait a minute, why aren't you doing that? So it's going to be important that we actually enforce our laws. Now, I agree that first we ask someone to move, but they're not going to move, then yes, we should cite them. And I'm proud to be endorsed by the DA, Tien Ho, because he knows that I'm the partner he needs to be sure that we address the safety issues, that public spaces are accessible to everyone in the public. So when people cannot get down the sidewalk, when people don't feel safe in our parks, that's a problem for the entire city. Now, we need to find solutions. We need a place for people to go. Right? So certainly I'm fully in agreement with that. But we also need to tell people that there are rules that we've established in our city, and we will expect people to follow them.
The next mayor of Sacramento has a huge challenge because the city faces a $50 million budget shortfall, which you all know. The city manager has said this is not due to an economic downturn. It's caused by an expansion of city services and overall costs that cannot be sustained. So the question is really, because part of that was spent on shelters, how would you be able to balance the budget while sustaining or even expanding the services available to our homeless community? And right, so we start with Steve Hansen on this one.
Thank you for the question. Today we learned the city budget deficit is $66 million.
Wow.
And it is an expenditure problem. Revenues have not dropped. I know the city has resorted to trying to raise taxes through Measure C, which seems to be thrown together like a little bit of sausage, but nobody's really happy. I think we have to step back and get back to the core reasons of why cities exist. We have to keep people safe. We have to maintain our parks and our streets, and that has to come first. The city, in the roles of government, isn't traditionally a homelessness provider. We've received state and federal funds to do those things, and so using those funds, we have to continue to help however we can, but increase those partnerships with the county through even new programs like CalAIM, which is a Medi-Cal program that is experimenting, expanding services to homeless people through housing and other stuff. But we have to protect the core services in the city. We have to keep our neighborhoods safe, and that's the chief priority of the mayor.
Kevin McCarty.
Yeah, so I was a council member during the last recession. It was brutal when we had to shutter swimming pools and parks and lay off public safety personnel and fire stations. So I don't want to have to go back there again. But the bigger question is how we're here, because it's deeply troubling that we're not like we were 10 years ago when we had unemployment over 10%, a drop in property tax and sales tax. Our economy is going on at a decent clip, and we're facing 50, 60, or potentially $70 million deficit. So we need to ask tough questions as far as how is the spending getting us here. So we need to do things differently, and we need to protect core city services like police, fire, and parks, our core general fund programs. That means taking a look at programs that we may have expanded with one-time monies during the COVID kind of rebuild, and scaling some of those back and focusing on the core city services.
People watching may wonder what specifically you're talking about there. Which of the services would you scale back that were paid for with one-time money?
Well, there were programs that were started outside of the core. I think of the core as police, fire, and parks. Anything other than that in the general fund is at our top priority for the city of Sacramento to evaluate those.
Can you think of a specific program you would cut?
I'm not going to recommend one today, but I think that you look back, there are some that probably we need to take a look at scaling back.
Okay. Candidate Pan.
The people of Sacramento want results, and I bring a record of results. So when I first came to the state legislature, we had a $28 billion deficit in the state budget, just like as we're facing the $50 million deficit in the city. When I left the legislature, we had a $30 billion reserve to help buffer against future economic downturns. That's the kind of results people want. During that Great Recession, as the city was desperate to figure out how to balance its budget, they were proposing to cut fire stations. Well, I stepped up and got federal matching funds that brought in $2 million a year to help support fire services. In fact, those dollars are still coming, even now, over a decade later. And I appreciate that people brought up CalAIM and CareCourt, because after all, I was the one who worked on that legislation. CalAIM was something that I worked on that actually allows us to bring down federal funds to help provide people with rental assistance and housing navigation to address our homeless issues. So that's not requiring city tax dollars. That's us being able to draw down federal money in order to do that, even as our state's struggling with its own budget deficit.
All right, Candidate Cofer.
I'm frustrated that we're in this position because I served as a Measure U Community Advisory Committee chair for 4 terms. And that was the committee that was overseeing our tax increase that led to an additional $70 million a year coming into the city's budget. And we pushed as a committee for those dollars to be spent well, and also for the process and efficiency recommendations that our city council spent several $100,000 paying management partners to receive to be implemented. And within those recommendations is at least $50 million per year in savings. So not only was it entirely preventable for us to be in a deficit, we actually could have a surplus. And that's the kind of failed leadership that we don't want to go back to, is ignoring the very recommendations that we paid for to ask us how to cut out waste. We should not be having a conversation about having to cut services because we should not be in a position where we have a deficit. And so that's what you can expect from me as your mayor, is someone who's going to spend your money wisely, because I don't like to waste my own money, and I'm definitely not going to waste yours.
Thank you.
Our next question. We asked KCRA viewers to send us questions, and of course we thank everyone who did. Carla Johansson asked, there are millions of dollars going to homeless programs. However, residents have been given no money to deal with the impact of homeless camps in their neighborhoods. What will you do to provide homeowners and renters with funding and tools to deal with the impact camps and crime have had on their property and personal lives? Our first response comes from candidate McCarty.
Well, I think first and foremost, we need to focus on what we have and keep that going. So in my current job at the state level, I'm going to fight to make sure that Sacramento has continued money to get people off of the streets. I think with our scarce dollars, we need to spend all of that money opening up sites where people can go to free up our community parks, to free up the parkway, to free up, underpasses throughout our neighborhoods. So I don't necessarily think it's in the cards right now to help homeowners work on those issues. I think what our job as a city is to work to see what we can do, not just us, with our county partners as well. I think that this is one of the things that we have failed, is bringing in, a partnership with, regional jurisdictions, with the county of Sacramento, other cities, to focus on this collaboratively. Because let's face it, we are all in this together. We can't solve this on our own. And more, the state is telling cities, we're not going to give you state money to fix this unless you work on these things together. So all of our resources should be focused on getting people off of the streets in shelter locations today.
Candidate Pan?
Yeah, I certainly feel for the person who asked that question, because I'm a small business owner. And our small business, unfortunately, has had to deal with someone who has damaged our property because who is unhoused. And not necessarily because they were intentionally doing it, but that happens, right? In fact, very recently, I was at another small business, and the place smelled of smoke because someone was lighting a fire next to the building, that same building the small business was in. So this has had a huge impact on both businesses and people's residences. So the first thing we got to do is, again, get to the root of the problem. We need to help get people off the streets where they're unfortunately lighting fires or damaging property. So we need to enforce our laws. We need to get people off the streets, get them a place to go so that they're not in the situation where they are causing the property damage. Because otherwise, you're right. I mean, people are paying the price for the damage that's being caused to their homes and their businesses.
Candidate Cofer?
Yeah, I lived downtown 10 years ago, and so it is unrecognizable in many ways because of just how much, our population of people experiencing homelessness has grown. And it saddens me because we are the capital of the 4th largest economy on planet Earth. And so one of the things I'm also sympathetic to is that what we are doing right now is not working for anyone. When I talk to the business community, they're not happy. When I talk to homeowners and renters, they're not happy. And most of all, people experiencing homelessness are not happy. So what we have done, moving people, street to street, is not working. And it's also created hardships for people who have to clean up afterwards because we have a failure of infrastructure. We don't have bathrooms, and using the bathroom is not something that is an option for people. You know, people are trying to survive. And so what I want us to do is focus on solutions. We often so much focus on how we can respond to things after the fact. We do this in public safety. We even do this in medicine. How do we handle a problem after it's happened? I'm a public health professional. I want to prevent as much as possible. I want to make sure that we don't have people sleeping on our streets, so then we're not spending all of our money trying to repair harm, but instead trying to take care of people. That is our responsibility.
Candidate Hansen.
As mayor, I'm going to keep our city clean, keep it safe, and build our economy. Right now, when you're a homeowner and something like that happens where there's a camp in front of your house, you are expected to clean that up, and you might be fined by the city for the city's creation of that problem. The city won't fine itself for its own creation of it. We have to make sure we're using all of our departments, our solid waste department, our code enforcement staff, to make sure that we're keeping our neighborhoods clean. And what happened in this woman's neighborhood is unconscionable, but it's happening all over the city. Even where we lived, a few blocks away from here, we moved, but a homeless person burned half a duplex, damaged the fourplex next to it, and then burned that to the ground after it was emptied to be rebuilt. And that's just not the city that we deserve. We need to make sure that the city is on the front lines of keeping all of our neighborhoods safe, our families safe, and keeping the city clean, because that's how we're going to get people to open businesses and come back and spend their money here.
All right, in this next series of questions, we're just looking for a simple yes or no answer, trying to cover more ground here, just letting people know where you stand. The first one is, do you support the approach by the county district attorney, Tin Ho, who filed a lawsuit against the city for its response to the homeless crisis? Starting with candidate Pan.
Yes, and I'm proud to be endorsed by him.
Candidate Kofer.
No, I do not.
Candidate Hansen.
Yes, I do.
And McCarty.
No, we don't need lawsuits. We need working on these things together.
On the upcoming March 5th primary ballot, voters are deciding on Measure C, which dramatically increases the business operating tax for some small businesses. Yes or no? Do you support Measure C? We start with candidate Kofer.
No.
Candidate Hansen.
I do not.
Candidate McCarty.
No.
And candidate Pan.
Most definitely no.
As you all know, 2 city council members have proposed a citywide daytime homeless ban, or camping ban is probably more accurate. Do you support that? And we start this one with Steve Hansen.
It's another tool in the toolbox, and I do support it.
Okay, Kevin McCarty.
Yes, we should have no camping, whether it's day or night, anytime.
Okay, Richard Pan.
Yes, and we should enforce our existing laws too.
And Flo Kofer.
No, I do not, because I don't believe that we should waste money on things that are not solutions.
The current city council could not come up with a single location for a safe ground space, so they gave that job to the city manager. Should that be a decision actually made by elected city leaders? Yes or no, starting with candidate McCarty.
It should, but it's not happening, so I support the city manager opening these up at an urgent level.
Candidate Pan?
The city council has kicked the can down the road for years. So yes, that's why the city manager does need to act then.
Candidate Kofer?
No, I think that this is something that our elected officials should have a hand in, because we are the ones who are elected by the people of Sacramento.
And candidate Hansen?
Anything that moves along the ability to get people into things like tiny homes instead of tents is a good thing. And I think the city manager always represents the will of the council. So anything that will keep us moving.
All right, thank you all. We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we will hear the candidates' final statements.
Welcome back. Time now for final statements from the candidates.
Each of you will have 30 seconds for a final message to voters. And Kevin McCarty, we start with you.
Thank you. I'm ready to lean in for our city of Sacramento. I want to be your mayor for my hometown city. And I believe in Sacramento. I believe in public service. But more importantly, I believe about solving problems for our city. I'm going to use my experience as a city commissioner, as a council member, as an assembly member, always looking for focused on real solutions to our issues. I want to bring about practical solutions to issues with housing and homelessness and public safety. I respectfully ask for your vote in 2 weeks. Thank you for your consideration.
Candidate Hansen.
As a father, as a small businessman, as somebody who loves Sacramento so much, I never planned to run for office again after I left, but the city we love is falling apart, and I'm running to help put it back together and create a brighter future for my family and yours. I encourage you to check out my website, steveforsacramento.com, but I humbly ask for your vote. Everyone has a ballot right now, and this is a consequential election. We need to make sure that we keep our city clean, safe, that we help our small businesses, and we move the city forward together. Thank you for your support, and thank you for watching tonight.
Candidate Kofer.
If we do what we've always done, we'll get what we've always got. And so I am running for mayor, and I invite you to be a part of this people-powered movement because I know that together we can create solutions. We want to be heard, we want to make sure that we're meeting our needs, and we want to make sure that we apply a public health approach so that we're not making problems worse while we're trying to actually address the major challenges of our region. Sacramento needs to step into the future, and so I invite you to go to flowformayor.com to join our campaign. This is a corporate-free campaign that's doing something different because we cannot trust the people who got us into this mess to get us out.
And Candidate Pan.
We have a crisis in leadership in the city, and it's time for someone who's going to get results. And I'm proud to be someone who has gotten results for the people of Sacramento. As I mentioned earlier, I helped get us from a $28 billion deficit in the state to a $30 billion reserve. As a doctor, I got our uninsured rate from 17% down to 7%. Homelessness can seem to be an intractable problem, but I'm going to go to work for you to be sure. And with relentless focus, we're going to work to get this problem under control. That's what I'm going to do as mayor. I respectfully ask for your vote. Thank you.
Tonight, we, of course, thank all of the candidates for joining us tonight. And, of course, we thank our KCRA3 viewers for joining us as well.
And we really want to point out that tonight we did focus on what we hear consistently as the #1 issue for voters in the Sacramento region, which is homelessness. But there are many more issues facing the city and the region. And all 4 of these candidates have very detailed plans and positions on issues. And so we urge you to find out more about them on a range of issues. You can get a lot more election information on kcra.com. And of course, as was mentioned, you have your ballots. We hope that you vote. The election is coming up March 5th. You can vote before then, but if not, then certainly vote on Super Tuesday.
And of course, Edie, we do have a little bit of time. So before we leave, candidates, one last question, and we'll start with you, Candidate McCarty. What's your favorite place to go in Sacramento?
The river. I love our American River Parkway, whether it's paddleboarding or going for a walk or riding my bike.
Candidate Hansen?
For me, it's taking my kids to Binchoyaki, which is a great little restaurant, been recognized by Michelin on 10th and W, family owned by Craig and Toki, and they give the kids the most food you've ever seen, corn dogs, fries, rice, soup, and it's a terrific place.
Yes, I love the big park in Oak Park because there's something for everyone of all ages, and it's just a great outdoor space.
And Candidate Pan.
There's so many great places in Sacramento, but I like to take my kids to the train museum, especially when they're little. You can't break the trains. They can run around.
All right, there you go. Just a shout out of love from all 4 of you for the city that you'd like to lead. Thank you so much for joining us.